Hey everybody, welcome back to LOD Tech, the podcast, episode 2. So last week we talked about Radeon RX 5600 XT, and now it's been released and there's some reviews out there, and I just want to go over a few things and talk about the two cards that will be competing against each other. So originally it was thought that the RX 5600 XT would be competing against the 1660 Ti, but being that AMD brought out their card a week and a bit ago and gave the price and availability, this gave NVIDIA time to mount an attack, I guess, or a comeback, or do something that we really haven't seen much of lately, but they dropped the price of the RTX 2060. So now we have the RTX 2060 going for $299, and we have the RX 5600 XT going for $279. And then out of the blue, I guess just before the reviews went out, AMD was like, well, hang on a second. This is a competitor for the RTX 2060, and they drop a new V-BIOS. So it's very weird. Like, this is, you gotta, like, in my mind, this card blows away a 1660 GTX 1660 Ti at its base, no problems. And you know, it was probably a little too expensive, in my opinion, at that price point. But then lo and behold, NVIDIA is like, no, we're not going to get beat in this area. We're going to drop the price of the RTX 2060. Now, there is an asterisk because I haven't found anywhere online that says that these are going to be permanent price drops. This could just be a sale, just like AMD did with the, what was it, the Vega 56, when they dropped the price on that and said, hey, well, no, we got a card that can compete. Well, same thing there. It was just a limited time offer. It wasn't for the whole time. So time will tell whether or not NVIDIA is like, hey, this is the way that this card's going to be from now on, and this is what you need to sell it at, because that's what we're selling our card for. And then all of the add-in board partners, come back with that version. So we have this new BIOS that comes out for the card, and it adds performance to the card. It adds more power to the card. I believe it's 10 watts more TDP, I think. And then it adds more boost clock to the card. So the card does compete toe-to-toe with the RTX 2060. This is a crazy thing, because now AMD might have just kind of put themselves in a situation where they're going to have one card with the same name but different specs. So, because I can't find it everywhere that all the cards that are coming out are going to get this new BIOS. If they do, then that will be good and everything will be fine. But if it stays the way it looks like it's going to stay, is anything with OC is going to get that. Like anything on the box that says, blah, 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 RTX 5600 XT OC, that's going to get the boost clock and then the extra power. And anything that's just a Radeon RX 5600 XT is not. Now, the ones that are OC look like they're about $10 to $20 more. And the ones that are just the regular are going to be the $279. So, and I think you're probably going to see a few that are even more than that have the 3 fans and the bigger coolers and lights and all the bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, that's what they need. So now you've got the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. I guess the response from NVIDIA, and I hope that it is 100%. That's the way it's going to stay, because I feel like probably in the next 6 to 9 months we're going to see the 3000 series come out, and then we're going to have then we're going to see some new cards and some new more power. I don't want to say power. You're going to see a bump in frame rates from the prior generation. Hopefully it's more than the last generation, and the prices don't jump up like they did. We talked about that last week a little bit. But these cards they're very different. Now, the Radeon RX 5600 is 251 millimeters square, and it's got 10,300 million transistors. I believe shaders on it is 2,304 cores. It's got 144 TMUs, 64 ROPs, 6 gigabytes of memory, GDR6, and 192-bit memory bus. Now, the RTX 2060 has been out for a long time, and of course that's based on the TU106 core, and that is a 445 millimeter square, 10,800 million transistor, and that's got 1,920 cores, 120 TMUs, 48 ROPs, 6 gigabytes DDR6 memory, and 192 bit bus for the memory. So on paper, these cards are very similar. Obviously, Navi being a little bit smaller die, but of course it's 7 nanometer versus 14. So, that's what it is. And I'm trying to think of the power draw. I believe that they're both okay. So the regular RX 5600 XT without the new BIOS is 150 watts. I believe the one with the new one is 160 watts. And I know that the RTX 2060 is rated at 160 watts. So they're kind of even. They're both very, very similar, and the frame rates are very similar. And yeah, I don't know. I said 14 nanometer. I meant 12 nanometer for the RTX 2060. So there is a size difference in them. But that big core versus smaller core, it's really the processing of the size of the core. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. It looks like both of them are toe to toe. They kind of trade blows with one another. It looks like the the RX 5600 XT is ahead on some or most, and the the RTX 2060 is behind, but shows up on a few that pull ahead. But for the most part, these are within low percentages of one another. So these wins are not like wins. These are how do you explain? Like, you wouldn't notice it in real life, so like some of the things that you don't get on the Navi are the ray tracing. Of course, it's not free, it's not free on the NVIDIA card either. So, but you have the tensor cores there that will, help a little bit with that. Touring, I have a 2080, and I've used ray tracing twice, I think. I don't notice it while I'm playing. It doesn't help me at all, and it doesn't make the game any more real to me than, I think maybe in like a couple of years from now, when these, probably 2 to 3 years, when ray tracing's a little bit more used, and, everybody's got a handle on it and can code to it better. But you're not going to have these cards. You're not going to have a 2060. Even if you hold on to it for 2 years, you're going to be at the end of the life cycle for that card, which is like 2 or 3 years. And then what do you do? I find it very interesting that AMD brought this card out and made, kind of swung with what they had and what they wanted to bring it out as. And then Nvidia was like, nope, we've got something better than that. And they're effectively kind of killing the 1660 Ti. I mean, there is a price difference between it, but I mean, the price difference now is not that much. So why would you go with the 1660 Ti when you could, maybe wait 2 to 3 weeks longer, get some extra money, and put it towards a 2060? So in my opinion, they've kind of killed the 1660 Ti, and that's probably, in my opinion, only, and who am I really? The 1660 it probably should just go away. If you have one, great. I'm not saying it's a bad card. I have wanted to put it in many systems that I have built. But just I actually have not actually had the pleasure of dealing with that card yet, but I have had the 1660 and 1660 Super. So and I have no problems with those cards at all. I think they're good cards, and if that's all you can afford and you need to pull the trigger right away and you can't wait for the 2060, then go ahead, do it, man. Like, honestly, whatever gets you playing games and makes you happy, then go for it. But if you can save up for the RTX 2060, go for it. Or on the other hand, if you don't need ray tracing, then you can save a little bit of money still and get the Radeon RX 5600 XT. This is like the power of this new BIOS is kind of crazy. It kind of puts it very close to the 5700 regular, not the XT, and I don't think that that's what AMD wanted to do. And I think that I don't know if they're probably not going to bring out a BIOS for the 5700 XT and 5700, to let them use a little bit more power and overclock a little bit more. But man, this new one gets the 5600 really close to 5700, and not in everything, of course. And the 5700 is in a different class, obviously, price wise, but it's close. So I think that you have a very good choice now at the $250 to $300 range. I think this is, most of the cards that are sold nowadays are in that range. I think that's the bread and butter. That's where these companies make their most money on GPUs. Like the 2080 Ti's, you're going to sell those, but you're not going to sell as many as, say, a 2060 or 2070. And same thing for AMD. They don't really have anything else except for mid-range, I guess. Mid to mid-high, I guess. They have the 5600 XT, the 5700, and the 5700 XT. I'm not even going to talk about the 5500 or 5300. I don't think that... It's not that I don't like those cards, and if you have a 5500, great. Yeah, I'm sure it's gotten you playing video games and you're more than happy with it, but I would just wait if you are buying a new system and save your money up and get yourself a 5600 or XT, because the difference is quite large now with this new BIOS. And of course, you'll have to look on the websites and read if it does have the extra power and the extra game clock or boost clock, whatever they like to call their stuff now. But the only thing missing from the AMD lineup is the ray tracing, and that's going to come in the next generation from what I've read and what I've heard online. I mean, take that with a grain of salt. It might not come with that next generation. It might be the generation after, but who knows? We don't. It is what it is. But these two cards, man, they're going to battle it out, and you're going to have people like AMD's better and NVIDIA's better. And I think it's just great for the market. I honestly think that this part of it is the best thing for us, the consumer, because at the end of the day, you get to choose between two cards that are very, very similar in price, and one of them had to come down to get to that price, not up. So Can you imagine if the RX 5600 came out at $250? I mean, it's only $29, but what would the 2060 have had to come down to? You know what I mean? Like, it would have had to come down to 275 at the very minimum, maybe 270. Like, I know that they want to make money on it, and that they priced it the way they did at 279. I think that's the base model, and then 299 is going to be probably your higher end, or 289 depending on what brand you buy, what model you buy. But this is kind of the return of competitiveness from AMD. I think that they've got a new processor out there, a GPU that will match toe to toe with NVIDIA, and NVIDIA is responding now. They have to. It's almost it's like everybody said that they want Intel to do for AMD with the processors. They want them to respond with price cuts, and Intel's like, no, we're just leaving everything status quo. People are still buying them. We're not losing money. But Ryzen 4000 series is going to come out, and we might actually see, if it does have the IPC gains, AMD actually be ahead of Intel. Depends on if they can get that clock speeds up, of course. If they can get to 5 gigahertz, that would be great. I think that they would have a winner on their hands, because now Intel won't be able to say we have the fastest anymore, or we're better at this. And they're always going to be better at something. Intel, and believe me, they're going to come back hard and strong at some point. It might be a year, it might be 2 years, but when they do come back and they launch a brand new architecture, watch out, because it's going to be a killer, I think, because Intel is definitely not just sitting on their hands doing nothing. But to go back to these cards here, that's what we've seen from Intel and AMD, but now it's Intel and NVIDIA on the GPUs, and NVIDIA is lowering their prices. They're like, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. We're going to make this even. And I don't think that NVIDIA thought that they were going to ramp the power up and the clock speeds. And now they have a product that is basically, they're equal. They're equal, and AMD's is cheaper. Now, is everybody from AMD's camp, all the add-in barred partners, are they going to drop their prices? Hey guys, it's Editing Clayton here. I meant to say NVIDIA there, not AMD. Going to drop their prices? Probably. I mean, you'd be silly not to. But, I mean, we've already proven that we're willing to pay more for similar or just a little bit more performance. So maybe they don't. Maybe, like EVGA did. They came out with the RTX 2060 KO. And they thought that was going to be a knockout, but then AMD did what they did, and now we have that. So let's see what happens. I think that this is going to be a very good time in the GPU sector. I think that if and when Big Navi comes out, I think that you're probably going to see NVIDIA come out with their 3000 series, and it's probably going to be better. But we don't know. We have no idea how big, we can speculate all we want about what Navi's doing and how it's working, but at the end of the day, we really don't know where that card's going to be when it comes out, if it comes out. And same thing with the NVIDIA RTX 3000 series. We have no idea. I'm assuming that NVIDIA they haven't dropped the ball in a long time. And so I don't think that they are going to do it this time. I'm just hearing myself say that makes me sound like a fanboy of NVIDIA, but I'm going to be honest with you. If AMD comes out with a 5800, let's say XT, that's faster than the 2080 and cheaper, why wouldn't you buy it? I mean, again, and that's just me. if you love ray tracing and you need it, then go ahead. Like, buy the RTX 2080, buy the 2080 Ti, buy the 2070 Super. You know, like, all these cards are out there that you can buy with the what do they call, the tensor cores that give you, I guess, the RT cores. I'm not even sure what they're called. RT cores, I guess, or tensor cores that give you the DLS super sampling, and they give you, ray tracing. But it's in its infancy, and it doesn't necessarily do anything for me. I've turned it on in multiple games, and after a while, you don't really notice it. I mean, how many times are you going to look at a puddle and look for the reflection of a thing that's on the other side of something else? When you're in a shooter game, you're not looking at the puddle, like, unless it's like a slow-paced game where, like, somewhere like Rainbow Six. But that game doesn't even have ray tracing, where you might be able to look in a puddle and see around a corner, and there's a guy there, and you can sneak up on him. That's the only thing that maybe might be able to help. It might help in a few other situations, but for me, I just, it's just eye candy, and I tend to not see it after playing. After I get into the game and I'm actually into the gameplay itself, I just don't see it, but something like Minecraft, when they brought in the ray tracing for that, it looks amazing. So obviously, when done right, it can be a game changer. So, but like, this is a good card. I'm not putting it down. I would love to get my hands on an RTX 5600 XT. I'd like to get my hands on a 5700 XT just to do some benchmarking on them, to put them up against my 2080 with the 3800 X. Just to get a baseline. But I haven't had so much. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. Anyways, whatever. I haven't heard anything back from any of the companies. So hopefully one day, when I'm a little bit more people, I can get maybe some more viewers, and then we can definitely get some of those reviews. For now, I gotta buy everything on my own, and I just can't go out and buy both those cards. For my wife would literally kill me. But anyways, these cards these are like, just looking at them, I'm looking at pictures on them online, and they're very similar cards. That one has a 6. What is it? I don't even know the 2060. I don't have a 2060, so and I've only ever looked at one. Well, I've had one in my hands, and I've tested with one for a bit. But okay, so they both have 8-pin power connectors. So yeah, so they're very, very similar. Like, even the cooler on them looks very similar in the picture I'm looking at. Obviously, one's very AMD looking and one's very GeForce looking, but for the most part, they're both. What's it's funny is that when I go to the Tech Power Up website, I guess they haven't updated it to the 150 or 160 watt version of the card. So they have it down as like the recommended resolutions down at, they have a yellow marker down for 1440. And on the 2060, they have it down as a green. And I think that once they update this, you're definitely going to see, you're definitely going to see the similarities between these two cards. I don't think there's a huge difference between them anymore, and good on AMD. Good on them to come back. And I'm not a fanboy of either one of them, but I'm going to be honest with you. This should make even NVIDIA fans happy that they brought out a card that equals the 2060, because it's going to drop the prices. Like, can you imagine if they brought something out that matched the 2080 and the 2080 Ti? Like, it might be too late by the time they do it, but those prices would drop too. You gotta think that if they got anywhere close to those speeds and those frame rates, that and they had a lower price, NVIDIA would definitely bring their prices down. Or at least that's what I would hope, anyways. You never know. They might just pull an Intel and be like, nah, people are buying them. Why would I do that? hey, Intel's doing it and they're making billions of dollars, so why isn't Nvidia doing it, right? So, but for the most part, I think that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. I think that if you're in the market for a mid-range graphics card, I guess upper mid-range graphics card, because you'll have the low end, which is going to be your GTX 1650, 16. I don't even know. Is there 1650 Super? I don't think there is. But and then you'll have the 1660, and then it kind of goes to the mid range from there, and then the higher end mid range, which like the low end would be the RX 5500 XT, and then you would go into your RX 5600 XT, which obviously combats the RTX 2060. If you're in the market for I guess an upper mid-range card, or I guess mid-range card. I'm going to say mid-range card because I think the upper mid-range is going to be your RX 5700 and your RTX 2070s and 2080s. So I think if you're in that market, mid-range market, go for it. RTX 5600 XT or the RX 5600 XT or the RTX 2060. Either one of them is going to make you happy. Both of them are going to play at 1080p all day long. AAA titles. You're not going to have an issue. Obviously, if you're running the proper processor. If you have a lower end processor, then you might want to do a dual upgrade at that time. But depending on your processor, like 2600, AMD 2600, or that was Intel i5 9400 or 9600, 2600, 3600. 3700, 3800, Intel i7 8700, 9700, 9900. These all these things, like those are all for gaming, right from the i5 all the way to the i9. Same thing with the AMD. Right from their the Ryzen 5 all the way to the Ryzen 9. So if you're in that neighborhood and you have a decent processor and you want to do a mid-range piece video card, these cards are amazing. I think I'm so happy that this happened. I hope it stays that way, like I said before. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll hope you guys have a good day and night, and I'll see you next week, Wednesday. Bye.